All right, so we're going to talk about a pedal.
Yeah,
that's our what's new this week.
That's our what's new. Is we have a pedal here to talk about. Steve and I have made ourselves very familiar with it. I played with it at home and at church gigs for a few weeks, and then Steve got a week or so to play around with it,
which was plenty
enough for him to play around with it with bass. And DJ got to play with it for about 5 minutes here.
There you go. I'm a pro. I know it.
He knows it better than any of us now. It is the Mccaffrey Audio Reactor compressor pedal, and it's a little purple pedal, 2 knobs, one toggle switch, and of course a foot switch. And what do we think about this thing? It's a compressor.
It compresses.
That's what it does.
I'm not a big compressor guy. I'm not a big compressor fan, but I actually had a lot of fun playing around with this because it's not an extreme compressor. Like, you can dial in your kind of like squashy poppy kind of sound, but it doesn't go very far into that. It's mostly a very subtle kind of effect, like very like kind of subtle in a guitar-centric way.
Yeah.
Like, you could throw this on any guitar and kind of dial it in and use it to give yourself a boost, or use it to just kind of fill out your signal a little bit. It's a really... Compressors are interesting because they're the kind of effect, for the most part, if they're working well, you like don't even know they're there, sort of thing.
So you can just take it off and it doesn't change anything. It's really just a mind game, right?
Yes. Well, it's just a mind game. No, it's like it's like your secret sauce, where it's like it's helping you in ways that don't sound like an effect. You know?
That was really my big experience with it on bass, especially. I had to have you help me dial it in because you had Ryan, because you had a little more experience with it, and I kept saying I feel like there's something different, but I can't really put my finger on it. And then you were like, well, just play a note and let it ring.
Yeah.
And so I'd play a note, let it ring, and it would like fade out. And then you'd hit the compressor, like turn it on, and all of a sudden, like it was like full signal again.
Yeah, your note was back.
I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. So it helps if you need like some sustain. Like if you're trying to like super sustain your notes, you can use it for that. I was just having fun using it as kind of like a general like EQ signal squasher, like bring everything kind of tighter, you know. I was having a lot of fun with it in that kind of regard. It's got a toggle switch on it where it's interesting. This thing didn't come with an instruction manual, so I had to go online and like watch a video and have Andy from Pro Guitar Shop tell me how to use this thing.
Thanks, Andy.
Because I was actually a little bit confused. I think this thing does need to come with some kind of instructions.
It's got a pretty functional description on the website.
Sure.
On McCaffreyAudio.com.
I mean, maybe there was an instruction book that just didn't get included in this box for some reason. But it's like there's 2 knobs, level and fusion. Level is self-explanatory. That's like your gain or your volume. Fusion is the amount of compression. Mm-hmm. So you kind of do this balancing act in between compression and level to hit unity with the rest of your signal. But fusion is interesting because you turn fusion down like to the left, counterclockwise, to get more compression.
Right.
And if you turn it all the way clockwise, it basically goes to almost a normal signal. Was what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
With it.
Yeah.
And then there's a switch that's a 3-way switch. The middle position is the normal EQ, like a flat EQ on it. Left on the switch is more bass, and right on the switch is lots more bass.
Yeah, that switch was actually really handy because with the bass, I think in the default position, even though it's supposed to be like a normal signal, I think with bass it actually really chokes the signal. So I had to set it to more bass in order to get back to like my normal bass tone.
Gotcha.
So that was a little different.
Well, that's what compressors do: is they take the highs and they take the lows and they bring them in closer to the mid, sort of thing, or it makes the EQ all kind of flat.
Sure,
is what I understand. Anyways, like, you guys can argue with me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
I mean, it's hard to say. There's a lot of ways to look at compression.
It takes your quiet sounds and makes them louder, and your loud sounds and makes them quieter.
Right.
Too. Like it takes everything and brings it all kind of the same level. So you're like, if you had peaky highs normally in your signal, it brings them back down to be at the same level as your other EQ. If you have peaky lows, it does the same thing. You know, or same thing with peaky mids.
Okay, yeah,
like
I see what you're saying.
It focuses. It's like a focus pedal.
Right.
Sure.
Is that a weird way to describe it? I mean, we're supposed to be doing a review of this pedal, and we're trying to just struggle too.
We can't even figure out what a compressor is.
Yeah, we're trying to understand what a compressor does. We're basically like major hacks over here right now.
Well, even when I was playing it just for a second, even like, you know, kind of a lot of that. I have the SP LP, SP, AP
from Exotic.
DP. What is it?
How many letters are you going to say?
I don't know.
It's the SP.
It's the SP. Yes. Yeah. And I have the SP, and it works great. But it very much does just kind of, it does that one singular purpose of, you know, bringing your loud and your quiet and making it the same. Whereas that, with that little switch on there, like putting that bass boost on it, even like playing like a quick little John Mayer, like kind of like plucky little riff on it, just added a little bit more color, a little bit more sustain, a little bit more warmth, a little bit more just tastiness to it.
Totally.
Which without it, and then playing the same thing, I'm like, okay, this is cool. But it added a little bit more something that was desirable that you don't really know you want till you have it.
Yeah, I think I've owned one or two compressors in the past, and I just couldn't gel with them. I feel like I gelled with this one a lot better just because of those extra EQ settings. Like, if it had been stuck at flat, I would have been like, I don't really need this. But yeah, being able to bring in that extra amount of bass like helps you cut through the signal a little bit better, helps you fit in the mix, you know, brings a little bit more life into it, I guess.
Yeah.
He's all about that bass.
I'm all about that bass.
Oh my gosh.
No treble.
That's like the opposite of the truth. I'm all treble all the time.
Just
full brittle signal.
The one thing I really liked about this, and in some ways it was a little frustrating, but I think big picture wise it was nice, is that it is a very like natural natural, and like, I guess as far as a compressor can be, it's a very transparent.
Yes.
And so I never really, that's kind of goes back to how I was describing it before. Like, there were things I could perceive that were different, but it wasn't like I was going like, oh, like this is, I know exactly what's happening to my signal right now. Like, right. I kind of had to walk my way through it, like bit by bit, trying to figure out exactly why it was different. But it was definitely something where I was like, I like what it's doing.
Yeah. So on your bass, how are you running it in your signal path?
I ran it, basically, I ran it at the end of my pedal board.
Really? After the drives?
After the drives. But, I mean, I don't use drives most of the time. So, okay. And I didn't, for the set that we were doing, I didn't really have anything that was, that needed a drive. I think I had one song that I might have thrown, like an overdrive on.
Right.
But I do most of my tone shaping on the amp. So having the compressor there, I think, was really where it needed to be.
Sure. I mean, I experimented with running it after my drives, and that just wasn't the sound for me. I ran it in front of my drives for the most part, and that was where I found it to be most usable.
Right.
What I was really doing with it a lot is I was using it to kind of fatten up single coils. Like, if I was going to switch between humbuckers and singles, I found that was really useful for kind of like throwing it on with the single coils to match the output and like the sustain of like a humbucker kind of sound, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So that's kind of where I was finding a strong use for it in my home playing. When I was playing live, I wasn't switching in between guitars, but it was neat to have it there to just kind of beef things up a little bit, get some extra sustain, get a little boost every now and then in between, before my drives, basically, because I don't run any boost before my drives, and I was messing around with using this as like a pre-drive boost with some of my pedals, and that was a lot of fun. it's a great pedal.
Yeah, it does a lot of things.
Yeah, as far as the compressors that I've messed around with, I think this thing is really great. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It's bright purple. It's got like a kind of this science fiction theme. It's got a big atom graphic on there.
Yeah.
It's got a cool look. Got a good weight to it. I like the weight.
What?
The box is interesting. The way the box opens.
The way the box opens is really cool. I mean, this
Like
is kind of like this